What is up, guys, and welcome back to the Insite channel. My name is Freddie GrimyRannarr, and I'm so excited to announce my new interview series, which I will be adding content to on this channel. Every single week I'm going to be producing a new interview with different pros, coaches, talents in the Crosshair, really anyone in CS. And without further ado, I am more than happy to announce for the second time, because we may have messed up, well, I may have messed up the recording on this one, but we have Devilwalk in the Crosshair. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you're doing well today. How's everything going?
It's all good. A little bit loudly back here with the Albanian speaks all around, but I'm doing very well. Thank you.
A very intense pugging going on, but yeah, thank you very much. Getting straight into it. Firstly, like, I know it's a really basic question, but like, how did you get into CS? Because you've obviously been in CS for like ages now. Did you how did you first start it, and kind of what was like the first attraction to the game?
I used to stay up, all night until someone was not didn't want to play anymore, so I could like try on their PC. So that's kind of how I got into gaming in general and environment. It looked really fun, so that's kind of where I got the first taste of it, and then. We got a family PC, I think, when I was around 13 or 14. We had to book your hours ahead because I'm from a family of 5 kids, so you couldn't really have the PC all the time. But yeah.
So I'm guessing as you got older, you started to like actually be allowed to get the PC and stuff. Like, did you get your own computer? And then was that kind of when you started playing? Because you were saying like StarCraft was your first game. So how did you like get into CS then? Was it still through your brother, or was it kind of like your own means?
Yeah, they played CS beta, I
Yeah.
think 1 point, yeah, it might have been 1.1 or 1.0 or something, I can't remember, but it was very early on. And I was very young, so the details are a little bit blurry.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
But yeah, I played CS then as well. I remember still to this day they played CS Italy against each other. The hostages.
So you have literally been around since like the inaugural stages of CS, pretty much. Is that like, yeah?
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't. Yeah, because so what,
I
like,
haven't not in the scene
not the
necessarily,
scene.
but
Yeah.
I've seen the game from its
Yeah.
inception.
So like kind of when would you have started competing then? Because I think a lot of people would have known you from like obviously the first major time, like 2012, that kind of like Epsilon era and Fnatic we'll get into. But like when was the first time that you actually started to like properly compete in CS GO or 1.6 or Source?
I didn't compete at all before CS:GO. Really, I played a few cash cups in 1.6 with
Yeah.
JW, Schneider, Flash, Skytten, as you say, but Quitten in
Yeah.
Swedish. And that was the very end of 1.6. But I decided to become pro 2012. I saved up some money and I worked in a factory as a cleaner. And then, yeah, saved up some money and said, if I'm gonna go for it, it might as well be now. I always told myself I could do it, so yeah, just gave it a shot, and here we are.
So yeah, because I was gonna say that's actually one of the main points I want to ask is like, because you've been around, I guess, actually in the scene for ages. What is like the differences before we get into like your early career that you've kind of noticed throughout? So like, you were just saying there, like you literally had to save up to play CS. Like was that a common thing back then?
I mean, I remember like in 1.6, you used to measure the power of your PC and how many smokes there could be in one spot at the same time. So like, yeah, that's how we would actually measure the strength of your PC. Oh, I could be in 5 smokes. Um, and yeah, and I never really had any good PC.
Hmm.
I remember even in CS:GO, I had 60 FPS when I started playing. So yeah, always had really bad gear and material. Come from a little bit of a bit poor background, young, but yeah. Where were we?
Kind
Sorry,
of
what?
like I guess getting like we can talk about the differences now, later, because I think it's actually really interesting, just the stuff you've already talked about, like how I think a lot of people, and I'd say me included, like I've been around for a couple of years, but I still wouldn't have realized like how different it was back then. The fact that you're saying you measure your PC by the 5 smokes that you can sit in, and it's like it's a completely different landscape today. And you see someone who has a bad PC, and you're like, wait, what? That's unreal. Like I remember Resalt in an interview said, "Oh, I want a good PC," and everyone's like, "Oh my god, you don't have a good PC." Whereas back then, you're lucky to even have one that works, let alone
I mean,
like
yeah,
yeah.
I remember even like when we were like 13, 14, me and my friends wanted to have like a LAN at a friend's house, and we just like organized it over the weekend. But my parents didn't want to like drive us all the time and do
Mm.
that. So we we were a group of guys that carried a screen back then used to weigh like 30
Because they were
kilos. Like they were
like
really
big, yeah.
20, 30 kilos or something. So we would be like 3 guys lifting one monitor, walking 3, 4 kilometers, pausing. It took like several hours, and then we would set it up
Wait,
and
sorry, you'd
have a
walk
LAN party.
3 kilometers with a monitor.
Yeah, so 12, 13-year-old kid. Yeah.
If that isn't dedication, then I personally like. You must be sitting here and looking around at the pro scene and be like, "Damn, you guys have it easy right now. You guys have it
For
easy."
it, mother.
Because like so like would tournament PC. So like if you went to a LAN, like so
Oh,
a
there was no
LAN
pieces.
so like DreamHack Summer 2013. That's like a tournament I want to talk about first. Would you have like was it BYOC?
I mean, wait a minute. I think that one had tournament pieces.
Okay, but
But
it wasn't a standard, was it?
I think to if you had qualified to the tournament, you could use tournament pieces, if I remember correctly. But 2012, when I went there, that was my first LAN event. I brought my PC from Umeå. It was about 14-hour trip with train. I had the screen, clothes, computer, all the gear in 3 big bags, and had to carry them like several times on the train. And then, when I went out, bring several times again because they were so heavy.
Yeah.
I had to like actually like carry things and then stop, like, oh, and then bring the other stuff and then continue, and yeah, until I got there.
Because like I just had in my head that like okay, even though it was like early on, you'd still just like it wasn't you'd still have PCs, for instance. That's crazy. That's
You,
like
you, could- you could rent, I think,
yeah,
PCs, but I mean, it wasn't like we were millionaires back then,
yeah, just like
like some of the top pros are today.
mm.
You would lose money every tournament you went to, pretty much. But we did it for the passion of the game, and it was a fun thing.
Hmm. Okay, so getting into your early career now, a lot of those themes I want to touch on later on as well. But so DreamHack Summer 2013, this was just before it was the DreamHack before you guys won your major, and like it was super stacked, right? It was major level competition. You were playing on Epsilon at this stage, which was I think a lot of people from the outside perspective would see this as kind of like future fanatic, right? Was this
We
one
got
of
signed straight after that tournament, so.
yeah, so was Epsilon firstly, was that like your big break in that roster? And then was DreamHack Summer 2013 when you guys lost the nip in the finals, was that also like was that kind of the big break for you guys as individuals?
So it's a little bit interesting because I had quit CS before Copenhagen Games that year,
Hmm.
and I hadn't played for like 6 months almost. And JW used to play PUBG, or not PUBG, but Arma.
Yeah.
I mean, with my stepbrother, and basically he called me and said that they needed one for the Copenhagen Games LAN, and asked if I wanted to join their team. Um, so well, yeah, sure, why not? And we practiced for like 2 months, went to Copenhagen Games, and then Um, I remember the trial I did for Epsilon was me and another guy. I played on a PC with like 70 FPS, and it was legit lagging. And I remember I performed just enough for the owner of Epsilon to like okay me to join in this official.
Wait, so the
If I played,
owner would decide,
yeah,
not like the IGL or the players.
no,
Oh, is that so? Is that different to now?
depends
Yeah,
who you're in, I guess.
yeah.
But I feel like there's some orgs. I mean, you can obviously look at like NIP is a prime example where obviously it's not the players that
Mm.
decide. I think it's
Definitely
you know
managerial. Yeah,
yeah, and I think Astralis has kind of the same structure there.
yeah.
But usually in lower tier teams or it's players and coaches who decide.
Okay, so so okay, so you've just got into Epsilon, and you guys are going. So you've quit
Yeah,
CS, come back into CS. So would Epsilon be salaried at this time, for instance?
we got I think 200 euros a month.
And like your guys are considered literally one of the best teams in Europe at this stage because of like performances that are going to come
But
up.
there was only really one salary team at the early stage of CSGO, which was NIP.
Yeah. Okay. So then you guys went to DreamHack Summer. Was this for you? Like you've obviously just quit CS and you've come back into it. So I'm guessing your mentality right now wouldn't be like this is something I can continue for a long time. Was DreamHack Summer when you guys made that big finals? Was that for you maybe like a point where you were like, oh, okay, that this actually could be something?
Well, I always believed I could do it. It
Hmm.
was just I was just tilt because I remember there came an update which changed all the sprays, recoils, and everything, and I had played like 1,500 hours, and I was probably one of the better players in Sweden
Yeah.
at that point, and everything just felt so wasted. All this commitment I did,
Hmm.
so I was kind of like tilted, and fuck this, and
Yeah.
then kind of took a break and just hung out with friends for a while, and then when that came, it was no question. Of course, I wanted to play.
Hmm. Okay, because I think especially with NIP at this stage, it felt like a lot of the Swedish fans were kind of for them and maybe in some ways against you. Was this like a lot of pressure at this period, and like how were you able to deal with that? Where like regionally it felt like everyone was for NIP.
I mean, it started with them calling us cheaters on streams, like Get Right, On Screen, a
Hmm.
UK guy, and
On
some
screen,
other people.
yeah.
And we weren't invited to the prac group that the pros had. We had to still use IRC against random people to search 5-on-5.
Okay.
And it was only after DreamHack Summer we got invited because they still believed we cheated. Yeah, because they got owned, I guess.
Oh, so then going into that first major, was that like proving ground for you, especially being like people think you're cheating? You've won the first major, the first major of CS or of CS:GO. Like, how did that feel? Did you think when you won that first major, you'd still be here like 10 years later at it at the exact same stuff, and like CS has just like exploded so much bigger?
Yeah, I hope. I don't think
Yeah.
I thought it would grow into what
Mm.
it grew into. Obviously, that I think was kind of way above
Yeah.
my my wildest expectations of something. So uh, in some sense, I thought maybe the game would survive a couple of years, and then maybe I moved on to something else, and yeah,
Oh.
something like that. Maybe
Yeah.
some new FPS game would come out, and I played that, or I don't know really where my thoughts were, but I
Mm.
definitely didn't think that CS:GO would be this big of a thing for this amount of time.
Hmm. Yeah, I suppose I think a lot of people talking to them like that seems pretty common consensus of people being like we're just like it was cool at the time, we're still here. What's happening? Like, how are we still here? Okay, quick question. When you won the major, why did you pull your trousers down? Like, was that a bet? Was that like something you guys had prepared before? Like, what happened there?
No, it was there from a foreign in a live interview, and he said something like there was a Norwegian guy on the desk
Yeah,
who was famous for putting his shirt off when he won an event.
yeah.
And basically, Foreign's question was like, will you do something like that? And I said, no, I can pull my pants down then. And then he said, yeah, you're on, or something like that. And then I did it.
If you won, so I remember I was playing with you a little bit with this at the CCT LAN. If you won an event or won a major again, would you just stand on the stage and just trousers down?
Well, I don't really know what I would do. It's a hard
Yeah.
question
Yeah.
because it's such a euphoric and
Mm.
kind of insane feeling to work
I can
so hard for
imagine,
so
yeah.
many years and then this happens. So it's kind of I don't think I can plan anything at
Yeah,
this
yeah.
point.
It's just like whatever happens, like if you win, you'll just be there like, oh my god, like it's
Yeah,
happened.
well,
Yeah.
I'll trust my reaction.
Yeah. Okay, so getting a little bit back on track, you pretty recent, like it wasn't too long after that you went into a coaching role for Fnatic. What was kind of like the main reasoning behind this then?
So JW was gonna go to NIP,
Hmm.
and basically I talked to him. I really wanted that team to succeed, and we were kind of like a family at that time. And I
Yeah.
didn't really see myself playing with other people for some reason at that point. I don't know if it was some antisocial stuff or what it was, but uh, yeah, I didn't really imagine that in my head. And basically, made him a promise to build the best team in the world. So I just told him, don't leave now, give me at least 3 months and I fix. And then I called Karn that night and said, this is what you need to do to get the best team in the world and have JW stay. I thought he was an incredible talent and um, yeah, I wanted to keep the team together. So I told him, you need to kick, I mean, one of what I called the trio back then. They were a little bit funny, a little bit loose, but it didn't really work in practice
Yeah.
that we take it seriously because there was three guys that kind of had a lot more fun and two guys that took it a little bit more serious.
Yeah.
So I basically told him that you need to split this trio up and have kind
Who
of
was
like a
the
majority
so who was the trio then?
Flashy W and Schneider.
Okay, so splitting one of those three up to like have the succession.
Yeah, just to get more consistent practice. And basically, my thought was then you would kind of have the serious guys kind of have more majority kind
Hmm.
of stock in the team,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. That was my thinking back then. And so I told him, you need to, but I didn't believe that we could just pick one player and refresh it because I believe that we had so many internal issues as well that wouldn't disappear if we didn't make something fresh enough.
Hmm.
I think if you just kick one player, you
It
still
doesn't really
keep a lot
change,
of.
yeah.
No, it does. It's not really new. So I told them that you have to kick me and Schneider, and add Olof, and then a kind of calm, mature kind of guy, and which ended up being Prince after we talked to each other, and then yeah, I was just supposed to leave, and then Karin offered me to be coach.
That's a very mature decision to sit there and be like, I'm gonna kick myself. And then to also come back and coach, like that must have been, was it weird coaching these guys who you'd been playing with for like the best part of a year pretty much?
I think the problem, the weird part for me was that I've obviously learned a lot from them.
Yeah.
And then going into, obviously, I think they trusted me like as a human being and stuff like that. But it's very hard when they've been teaching you, and now you're supposed to kind of teach them. It's a weird transition, and there's no real, uh, template to coach. I think there's very different ways of doing things,
Yeah.
and I'm special in my way, and I think that every coach has a little bit of that uniqueness to their style and how they approach things, think about things. Um, and yeah, it was a very tough transition, of course, because we were very good friends, and now all of a sudden I have to transition into some kind of boss, or
Yeah.
uh, yeah, and it,
Kind of like
it was
the
very
higher
awkward.
like the higher up. You're like the one being like, stop being silly, like stop being messing around. Like you're like
Yeah, and
there.
it's yeah, it's and I was managing the team at the same time, so I got very drained.
Mm.
I'm not good at managing stuff. That's not really where my expertise comes in, even as a coach. It's not really like managing stuff isn't my thing. I can
Yeah.
manage people, but I can't really manage like schedule, everything like that, and
Mm.
talk to 200 different people and keep track of everything with tournaments and all that. That's not really what I'm good at. Um, so it was a heavy workload for me, doing kind of two jobs. Plus, I was the one doing all the interviews, all the social media presence,
Ooh.
every event we would go to, like a car around Sweden, do shootouts, signings, like fan meets, all that kind of stuff. I was doing all of it. I even flew to Australia to do a fan meet there.
What?
Yeah. So I did a lot, and I don't think they really realized how much I did.
Yeah. So like, would that be actually the one thing you struggled with the most? Not actually coaching, but the fact that you had like literally a million things to do and you couldn't even be a coach most of the time. Then was that like the one thing you struggled with?
I mean, I still think I did reasonably well at that time. Obviously, we did pick up some trophies.
Yeah, just like a major. You just kind of
Yeah,
just like it just happened to win a
and
major.
we did become the best ranked team in the world 2 months after I made the promise. So I think
Yeah,
we
true, true.
depends on how you look at it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess so. Like you obviously have won major as a player, as a coach. Like you literally have done everything. When you, especially because you were saying like this must have been quite a hard period for you being as a coach because it wasn't. It seemingly you weren't in the exact same position. You weren't in the exact position you wanted to be in. Did you like? How did
I don't
you?
think I knew what I wanted to be.
Yeah. Did that help you with your drive? Because I feel like a lot of people would get there and be like, well, I've done it. Like, cool, I've done it. Like, how did you continue for literally till now after winning both major as player and coach?
I literally don't care that I
Yeah.
won them.
Okay.
They are in the past.
Yeah.
That's how I see them. It's fun, people. It's more other people that think it's cool when they meet me. I don't really
Yeah.
consider it a big achievement. I don't think I'm done. I don't think I've done what I want to do.
Yeah.
Uh, this is just like a side thing. For me, it's obviously a big goal for me to win another one, but these are still part goals. They're not the end goal.
Yeah. That makes sense because I guess so then from then you went then back to being a player. Was this so you were saying like you don't know what you want to be? Was going back to a player then you being like I don't know, is this maybe like do I want to be a player again, or was that a team decision to remove you and then you went back to a player?
No, I left.
Yeah.
I left after it was a UK tournament, I think. Gfinity
Yeah,
event.
Gfinity was on back then like yeah.
Yeah, I think after that tournament, I got kind of sick of the workload. I was extremely burnt out. I didn't really feel like appreciated for what I did and what I had done. And basically, felt like I needed yeah, a new position in life, I guess.
So I guess I think like backtracking like a couple like not too long, but like a couple months. I guess adding on the whole point of being like not valued, and like maybe being like I don't know like what the word, but like basically what you're saying. You guys had obviously like one of the like biggest scandals of CS:GO Olaf boost, and you guys were like right in between all of that. Would it be fair to say you guys got painted as like the bad guy during that period, and like you had the community, TOs, pro players kind of like pushing against you a little bit? Did that add to like the kind of almost burnt out a little bit?
No, I mean, of course it's never fun to get like 10,000 DMs on Twitter. Go kill yourself,
10,000.
It was something like that, yeah.
What?
Uh, of course, it definitely affected my mental health
Yeah.
in a negative way. There was really no support network on how to deal with this back then, or I don't think even professional artists had a kind of public appearance online. At that point. I mean, you can see even football players right now. They complain a lot about the social media.
Yeah, because I guess back it like was That's insane. Because like I guess back now you were saying people complain, but it's kind of dealt with better now because it's more of a thing. So I'm guessing back then it would have been even harder because it wasn't really a thing. Like social media was still kind of on the rise a little bit, and it wasn't as well like worked with, was it?
No, it was pretty raw, and I mean, you didn't really know how to use the thing either, or how to protect yourself in ways. You're kind of just open with your heart and putting it out there, and then people kind of people shit on that.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
Yeah, it must be tough. Okay, so it was like time for big reset, like kind of leaving all that stuff in the part, like kind of resetting yourself. You went back to playing then. You had a short little stint, if I'm not mistaken, in Europe, and then you went over to NA. That was something that I didn't even know you went to NA and played in like Winter Fox and stuff like that. Like so what was the decision about like going to America? Was that part of the whole like new look as well?
Yeah, change of scenery. I thought it would be nice, the gaming house in America. So
Yeah.
yeah, why not? So I did that. I still think, at that point I didn't really realize how burnt out and how affected my mental health was with all of these things that I've had experienced. So I think that's why it became so short. Kind of crashed mentally at that point and had to take kind of a hiatus for a while. And for me right now, it's kind of like a comeback story. It's my revenge. I don't know, my retaliation. No, maybe not. That's aggressive. But
It can be it could be aggressive.
no, it's not. It's more reproving my point in some way that I belong here and I can do a lot of amazing things.
So is that right now? Then you were saying kind of like the whole reproving
Yeah.
with BNE. Okay, because you did have like a fairly successful stint with like it was no chance. What was it? I
Yeah, but
there was
no
yeah
chance was just when I came back. Or Chaos was
yeah
the first team after my hiatus. Kind of come back into the scene. I didn't even
okay
look at CS. I didn't log into social medias. I didn't do anything. I was like completely out of it. I actually used to get like palm sweats just watching CS. Anxiety wise.
really
So it's it was this is a big comeback for me. I'm happy to
yeah
be back.
because that was like 2 years pretty much right. You had like on Liquipedia, obviously it says some stuff, but you wasn't actually doing that much. So you kind of had America, and you were saying like the reasons why it didn't work. That 2 years. So did you just stop CS completely?
Yeah, I didn't play a single game. I legit couldn't. I was not in the mental state to even do it.
So
It
then,
was
how
it
did you
was
come
really bad.
back?
No, I started to play again after a while, after I felt much more, stable and more myself. And and you know, stronger both mentally
Hmm.
and you know, when you start to make goals again and aim for something. Then I kind of came back. I started playing some gathers for fun, and then pretty early after that, I think Hampus wanted to create a team with me, and we played a little bit. Um, and then I think after that, I decided I wanted to coach.
Yeah, because you had like a small, it was like Passions, wasn't it? I think the name
Yeah,
was. Yeah. So a big part that was a I love how like it was kind of the core of the roster was like No Chance, Smash, Godsend, FPX. It was like so many different teams, names, but kind of the same core throughout. A big part of that, especially when you're on Godsend, was like during COVID. That must have been really rough for you, as a coach, right? And someone who had just kind of come back into the scene a little bit. Like, how did that affect you guys, having to play like basically a year of online CS?
I mean, we qualified for IAM Rio, but it got
Yeah,
cancelled. So
yeah, I did see that. I was like, that's rough.
yeah, it was pretty rough.
Yeah.
I thought I'd yeah, yes, now I can do the comeback story kind of.
Oh, okay.
But no, it didn't happen. But you know, those who persist, they will achieve something, I think.
So it was literally like 4 years, a comeback story to IEM Rio. You made the major in Rio, and then COVID.
Yeah, and it got cancelled, and then been grinding to get better and learning. I think through each team, I've been very critical and analytical on how I approach things,
Yeah.
because I do believe that overcoaching is a really harmful thing, and to find a balance on how much you can do without destroying things with your coaching, I think it's a very delicate balance. And so I've been reading a lot of psychology, philosophy, and trying to find this kind of balance where, yeah, I don't want my impact to be negative in any way.
Hmm. So, because like, especially looking, so obviously you're a BNE right now. There's a clear language barrier. Does that actually help with the overcoaching? The fact that you're not always talking, you can't always speak, like, is that actually then helping with your coaching style?
Mm, no, I don't think there's any
No.
difference.
Okay.
I still analyze the language they use, and
Yeah.
I'm learning Albanian day by day. Not like really studying it, but the CS language, and then I
Yeah.
just I know what needs to be said in my language, and I can hear how many words they say, and I just
Yeah.
ask them, "Did you say this?"
You're like, that was a lot too many words for what you were supposed to say.
I sounded a little ragey.
Yeah. So okay, so before we get properly onto the BNE stuff, you obviously, after a while you guys came back after COVID, and kind of FPX fumbled around. You were at Savage for a while. That didn't really have the same amount of success.
I do
Um
want to say about FPX though, I still think
yeah,
this is one of the greatest projects done because
yeah.
of the player material, the problems we had, no IGL, still played proper good Counter Strike. No matter how many times we swapped IGL, we were still dangerous against tier one teams, and I want to give myself a lot of credit for
Yeah, because
that.
I think definitely. So I guess the FBX period was when I was like starting to really, like watch Counter Strike day in day out. I remember being like, I'll be honest, I don't know a lot of these guys. I was like, these are all, apart from like Stico, and like I feel like a lot of these guys were newer names to the scene. Is that fair to say? So you just kind of brought
No,
like,
it was more like every broadcast we were on, they would basically say like, "These are the misfits. These are the
yeah,
people, the players nobody really wants in their teams." A little bit rude, but I mean, to some extent, maybe it had some truth in it. But yeah, I mean, I think we did a really good job. We grinded for a long time. We really believed in what we did, and worked hard. We had a massive amount of problems. There was no real fix but to fight through them and talk through them and try to internally fix them because we didn't have, you know, we weren't very. I don't think we were a super attractive team for people to join,
Mm.
just because of this kind of misfits situation. We had, I think, also a role mismatch in many scenarios, which we had to figure out in very creative ways. Is what I'm gonna say. Or I'll explain one situation we did actually. We had one player who didn't like to be B lurker, but he needed to be, but he would always just leave this space.
On like
So
overpass, for
like,
instance.
yeah, on overpass, yeah. So basically, what we did was we started him underground and swapped him with the B lurker in the mid round. So they swapped position mid round roles. So he would do the first half of that role and then swap with the underground player halfway through the round.
My first mental like thoughts to that would be like, imagine being an analyst trying to figure that out. Like you're watching a default, you're like, what is going on? Like you're seeing pieces fundamentally move when they shouldn't move. Like, so did that because like that worked?
Overpass was not a good map for us. Let's just put it that way.
It was like it worked, but it didn't work. It was like
But
a small.
it's like some players couldn't really play with each other. They would get mad at each other. So we had to spread them out on the maps. Uh, and that also caused even more role issues. So it was a very dysfunctional team in reality. But yeah, we had to make it work somehow.
It's very impressive. So like I'm guessing you must have learned so much from that then as an individual.
Incredibly. Like
Yeah.
it's one of the biggest learning experiences in my life for sure.
Cuz like I guess so speaking about like dysfunctionality, B&E are a team that from the outset they're like all over the place in the server. Did you then bring a lot of those virtues from FPX for instance into B&E?
I mean, I I don't want to change B&E's core
Hmm.
philosophy, really. I want them to still have that B&E identity and DNA of aggressive, um, kind of almost overstomping their opponents
Yeah.
to an almost ridiculous degree.
Like when they win it hurts.
Yeah, I want that to stay, but there are moments I think where they need to be more disciplined
Yeah.
and to kind of find that balance and mesh that into it's them and their style with uh, kind of a yeah mix in with mine in different timings and patterns. I guess it's
Yeah.
without revealing too much.
That yeah, don't wanna, yeah, that's fair enough. Okay, so just before you went into B&E, kind of during Savage, you actually were on analyst desk for the major. You were the Antwerp major. You also did the Espu one in Eliza, well, the Eliza one in Espu. That whole idea of like working as a talent before we kind of like start talking about B&E and all that stuff, was that did you approach them, did they approach you, was that something that you were like thinking of a change in career, or because from what it sounds like talking to you, it never like you don't seem like someone who'd be happy being on a talent team, is that right to say?
No, it's just a casual thing. They ask me, I say yes, and we go. Like it's not that much more thought
Yeah.
to it. I was asked for the major one day before the major started. So I literally woke up, checked a Twitter DM, and then I was hired and packed my bag and left. I had no time to prep for anything. I just went there,
Esports.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
that's kind of esports for you at that
a little
stage.
bit different than the other ones who knew probably for months
Yeah.
or negotiated or for months in advance. But yeah, everything had to be done in like a 2 hour period. Agree everything, sign and go.
Yeah,
So
I think.
it's for Esport, it was through my agency,
Okay.
and obviously I needed a little bit of a gig. I didn't have any coaching job at the time. Why not? Let's go. Love working with banks and Ben. just made sense to me to
Okay.
have a good time.
Yeah, because I was like, from the outside, I was like, was there ever a possibility of a career? But I guess it was more just like, bit of crack. Like, it was a bit of fun. May as well. Okay, so I feel like we're getting towards the modern day now. Firstly, just like B&E, like me and a lot of other people, when I saw this announcement, I was like, what? I was like, sorry, Devilwalk is coaching B&E. I was like, in my head, I was like, how has this happened? Like, on the face of it, you have like two just different cultures, languages. I was like, I guarantee they don't speak Swedish, and I guarantee you don't speak Albanian, or cause of I don't know which way is the best way to say that. Like, is it Albanian?
I still don't know. I think
Yeah,
it's Albanian is the language.
yeah. So like, how did that happen? Like, how did you just even get in the realms of talking to B&E?
No, it happened at Elisa.
I was thinking maybe a little bit. I was like, was there
Yeah,
some sort of overlap with you and Banks there? Because the timing works quite nicely.
yeah. No, it was basically had the internal discussions about maybe making a switch, and then basically asked me there. The plan wasn't really to replace Stickle. It was to, I mean, me being head coach and him being like assistant coach. That wasn't something he was interested in at the time. I understand it also. You don't want really want to be
Yeah,
a background figure, and
that's
and
fair.
you know, and he's a young up and coming coach, so I completely respect and understand his decision. Uh, but yeah, that's how it was, and I always liked the boats and the energy. So I feel like also they're very high skilled. So for me, I decided when the question came up, I just
Yeah, that's pretty. So Stickle actually owned me in a pug like 2 days ago. He's like fight. He's 4.3 kilo on Face It. I don't know if you're a coach and you're 4.3 kilo on Face It, you're spending too much time pugging. But
yeah,
yeah,
probably.
he owned me. But so as a coach, is it fair to say you have quite an aggressive style of coaching? Like, there's clips of you like leaning over, shouting at players at lands. Is that firstly like before we start? Is that a fair thing to say? Uh, y-
Well, it depends. I think you have long days, you have
yeah.
things, and it's an emotional game. But for me, there's some lines you don't cross, and
Mm,
if you cross those lines, I will let you know. I
okay.
think it's important to use. It's not that I want to be angry. It's that I find it necessary to place boundaries because I think no one likes to be screamed at, especially not in front of everyone.
Yeah.
And use that more as a tool rather than it's not of me personally or that emotional into it. It's I'm using my emotion and kind of accelerating it or making it
Yeah.
bigger and maybe using it as more of a tool than setting boundaries.
So like a little bit kind of like making them. I don't know if this is the right phrase to use, but like,
I am a kindergarten teacher, so I will see it as
what was that?
a kindergarten teacher.
Kindergarten teacher. I was gonna say, I was like, so is it kind of almost like you're shouting them into place, like be afraid to make mistakes?
No,
No,
absolutely.
is that not
Mistakes,
okay?
mistakes are completely fine to do.
Yeah.
But if you make mistakes without effort, or there are certain ground rules to be
Oh,
set you don't
okay,
follow, then I will be angry. I
okay.
don't care if you make a mistake. That I
Hmm.
I if any coach in the world encourage you to make mistakes.
Yeah.
I never want you to be afraid of making a mistake because that is not a big deal.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Sorry, for a second I was like a little bit confused with the wording, but okay. So you've been talking to me a lot about like different style, like the amount you've learned from all the different teams you've had. Like, theoretically, you have literally been coaching since like 2015. Have you adapted your? What was that? Sorry, your mic cut out. Mike's. I have I. Hello. Oh, I can't hear you. You seem to have cut out a second. I don't know what's happened. Uh, I can hear you now.
All right.
What happened
I,
there? Okay, that'll be a
there was
cut in the
nothing on
edit.
my part.
Oh, that's bizarre. Okay, well, I guess yeah, I'll
I
edit it out.
am
It's fine.
completely lost where I am. But
I was saying coaching since 2015, and you said something about first.
I was the first coach in CS:GO.
Wait, really?
Yes.
At Fnatic?
Yes.
I did not know that. I don't think anyone I've spoken to.
First major winner, first window smoker Mirage, first coach of CS:GO.
That window smoke, you must have been given such a boost when that video came out, and you were there. Like, you must have seen the title and just gone, yeah, that video is about me. That was you've got a lot of you gotta see wait, so like at these first events when you became the coach, were TOs and players like, oh my god, like what the fuck, like what is this? Da, 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 da. Or was it like, oh, that's really smart, let me do that as well?
I think most people got coaches after that.
Yeah.
Like people, Pita, like I think something like that.
Okay, so you've literally done just the first of everything. There's really just no competing at this stage, is there? There's just like everything's been ticked off the list. So you like
Just coincidence.
huh?
It's just like coincidence.
Yeah, that is. It's just kind of like all ticking off the list. So you've like changed your coaching style probably quite a lot during that period. Now coming to BNE, are you like how different would you be in a different coaching style than you were in like FPX, for instance?
I obviously have to adjust with the language,
Yeah.
but I take I guess situation differently and approach them differently. I think I analyze what they need, what they're missing, why they're losing rounds, with my face and brain, I guess.
Yeah.
And just try to okay. But if you want to play this, then you have to maybe do a little bit more of this and this to balance it out because I think okay, if they prep like that, maybe they will abuse this and that. And then, the best solution for their style.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily the one that will create an entire foundation of play. Of course, it's something I can do, but it requires a lot of work. But that's why I want to keep the DNA and improve that, make a super DNA.
Okay. So I guess going into this team, was that kind of like the one thing you were looking to improve on then? Like pick up what they've already had and just make it a little bit more refined? Because I know, especially for us, when like you guys obviously play at the CST LAN, I was on the analyst desk for that. And one thing that like me and Alan were talking about, Alan Hender, it just felt like B&E seemed a little bit more like in the mid rounds, they were actually slowing down. They were actually taking their time and like a little less rushed, and that's why we were like, okay, this is a new level of BNE. Was that a lot of your implementation?
Yeah,
Implementation?
I mean for sure. It's something we've talked about a lot, but they're all very intelligent people.
They're sitting behind you. They definitely want you to say that. They're like, yeah, guys, don't
No,
worry.
but
Okay.
no, but they are. I mean, they are
Yeah,
just very, very emotionally driven and can be hard to match emotion with intelligence at points.
yeah.
And have clear cut forms. So it's not like they're doing these mistakes because they're stupid. They are doing them because they are in a moment of flow and they don't really know how to push the brake. That's kind of where I come in and try to help you understand what kind of situation they're in, because Fnatic really very aggressive and very, looking I'm not afraid to take risks.
Yeah.
So I think it's something that suits me, this project, and that's why I chose it. I think I can do my best work.
Oh. So I guess just kind of looking at B&E in general, you guys are the best team in the region, but it's fair to say there aren't many teams from your guys' region. I think this is something that I have slightly spoken to you about before. Before, like, obviously you were like part of B&E. What, like, if you guys were looking to make roster changes, where would you go with this?
Changes. It's not something that is even right now. Yeah, it's not something that is even on my mind right now.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have to be able to react and have a plan B if in case something happens. But there are plenty of talent in the Balkan region, so I don't think it would necessarily be a problem if that even comes to mind. But I'm not a coach that likes to kick people.
Yeah.
If someone has a problem, I will try to help him the best way I can and improve that player for what we need. I did it in FPX. We never really wanted to change anyone. Never really had an opportunity either. When the opportunity came up, we made votes on those decisions. And but generally, I will go through 500 different approaches before I decide.
Yeah. Which is probably quite a healthy thing to have. Like, you just, like, it's obviously a team that works, so like, why end it off? So just kind of finishing up with the whole B&E stuff. What would be your goals for 2023? Because I feel like, as from a for people looking in, pardon?
Top 10.
Top 10. So is it like consistent top 10, or just hitting it and like maybe staying in within like top 20?
I mean, it's by the end of the year we've had that. I don't think our goal is to walk through 2023 and be top 10 throughout it, but we kind of want to reach that. And then the further goal would be to consistently stay there. But our goals for this year, obviously, qualify for the major, do well there, get into ESL Pro League through Melbourne, and then I think it's pretty much done. Then we are top 10 because once we get into those spots, it's really easy to get up in the ranking.
Yeah.
Like, as some teams have proved, you can have a 20 to 25% win rate and still be in top 15. So
That's kind of HLTV for you, sadly. That's kind of how. Yeah, I think that's like a bit of a problem. Like, the bigger teams, if you just get the invites, you just get better rankings naturally.
once you hit like top 15, you will get some tier 1 invites, either from some teams not being able to make it to that tournament, or something happens, back more. So if you get into that region, I think it can snowball really quick, like we saw with Gambit, for example.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Completely. And so like, with you, obviously just mentioned Melbourne there. That's a lot of travel, and I think a lot of I think me considered as well, especially. I didn't realize we were talking about this before we started. You guys, and for this as well, like, this is coming out of your own pocket. So with stuff like Melbourne,
But those tournaments are obviously paid by the
but
organizer.
yeah, but like, so doing that with no, I guess, support from like an organization, does that make top 10 harder, or do you think that you guys are in a good position where you are right now?
I mean, you can probably answer that question.
Yeah,
I think
probably.
everyone understands it harder.
Yeah.
We don't have any extra, money for anything, really. We just go tournament by tournament, and what we make prize money basically is what we spend on getting better. So that's kind of how we do things. Obviously, it helps that the boys won the Legend stage twice in a row to keep the money flow going a little bit. But I think it's a dream that they all have, and right now my dream is to help them achieve that. So
Okay, so it's kind of like the dream for 2023 is all like stability, top 10, like that type of stuff. Would it be then?
yeah, I mean it's about getting more taste of tier one, and I think that we can compete there, given enough opportunities. And so the plan is to get more opportunity.
Yeah. Oh, perfect. Okay, so then ending off now, just looking at you as an individual. So looking at like some coaches that may be looking to aspire to get to your level. What type of stats would you monitor? Because I think a lot of people don't really know what like statistics to look for. So like, as an example, would you look at maybe wins after timeouts? Is that something that you look at quite a lot, or are there other some statistics?
No clue about these kinds of things.
Yeah.
I don't really analyze it through that point of view alone, because like I think emotions, people, they are in different states. For me, it's making sure they're in the right state of mind to win. And once they are in that state of mind, then I do the calculation, not necessarily add all the numbers in. So I do it a little bit differently. Because I want our lowest to be higher, and I want the higher can be where it is. For me, it's just the lows need to be closer to our high, and our state of mind needs to be in the right place. It goes to mental well-being and all kinds of things for everyone who has excluded needs to be in top. I don't believe that you can affect someone positively if you are not in a good place. So these kinds of things I think about a lot, and I believe everyone in some capacity has a role to change the world, or your
Yeah.
world, or your reality, or others.
So would that kind of be like your main tip for any up and coming coaches? Just like find your
I
own.
mean, have fun,
Yeah.
and I think you have to care. I think that's when you care, everything is rolls on the carpet. If you're an egomaniac, then I don't think this is something for you. I think then you might as well become a lurker or something.
Mm.
But from a coaching perspective, I think you have to actually genuinely care about each individual on your team, no matter how annoying or obstructive or
Yeah.
whatever they are. I want them to become both better humans and better players.
Oh, perfect. And then just like a very final reflection. So I was like the main someone like you, I'd especially want to ask this because you must have so many like highlights and fond memories. But like, what's kind of the one thing that you maybe reflect on every now and again that's like a really fun memory or like a big highlight for you in your career?
I don't really.
That's all.
Yeah, I look forward, not back.
Okay, so like not even like to maybe like just like a good moment. Just is it just always like just
I mean, when the major was fun, and it was an
yeah.
incredible moment. Uh, but I, I, I think I'm a little bit scared of.
Oh, completely cut out there.
Yeah, I'm scared of hybrids. Like, I don't want to be in a state of mind where I believe I know everything, or believe I'm better than anyone
Yeah.
else. I feel like this is dangerous for development, and therefore I try to avoid it at all costs. Therefore, I don't look back at all the achievements and only look at them.
Okay, so I guess that also is quite a nice thing. 'Cause it works both ways. Like you don't look at like if you take a hit, just keep on going. Like just keep on going forward. So I think that's a really nice place to end it off then. And thank you so much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I think for a lot of people, I see the celebrations in the back. I'm pretty sure something's gone well in that park. But yeah, if people are confused, I think so. Devilwalk's obviously at boot camp with all the beanie players before the RMR. They're all getting ready. Starting very soon, actually. So yeah, thank you very much. Any closing words or any remarks you want to send home, or?
No, I mean for all the Albanian Kosovo fans, keep sharing, love your support. All the here I'm getting is really motivating me to keep going and work harder. So keep it coming and share for the boys as much as you can.
Oh, thank you very much, guys. This week we've had Devilwalk in the Crosshair, our inaugural episode. I hope you guys have enjoyed, and we'll see you very soon next week for another episode.